This isn't who you are. It's who you've been rehearsing before your eyes even open. You've already decided who you'll be today, not consciously, but biologically, emotionally, energetically. And it's not a decision, it's a memory. You think you're waking up fresh, but your nervous system has already checked the script. Same thoughts, same emotions, same loop. You're not stuck because you're lazy. You're stuck because you've memorized a version of you that was never meant to be permanent. And until you stop rehearsing that version, the future you want can't find you. Let's talk about it. Part 1. The old you isn't just a memory. It's a frequency soft light filters in through the blinds. You're alone. No distractions. Just breath, heartbeat, and thought. And yet something's already speaking. A thought, a whisper, a faint yet familiar emotional undertone. Nothing's really going to change. You didn't choose that thought. You didn't consciously summon that voice. It just showed up. But what if that thought wasn't yours? What if it was a frequency you inherited, a vibration your body memorized? Because here's the truth most people never stop to consider. Your old self isn't just a set of past experiences. It's not just who you used to be. It's a living broadcast, a signal, an invisible rhythm that still plays underneath the soundtrack of your life. You feel it not just in your thoughts, but in your breath, in your posture, in the way you prepare for disappointment before life even gives you a reason to. And until you become aware of it, you're not just remembering the past, you're reliving it over and over again, like an echo, disguised as identity. Segment 1. The subtle mechanics of the old self. Think about this. When was the last time you really paused to notice how you start your day? Not the to-do list, not the scroll, not the coffee, but that moment before all of it, when your eyes open and your body already knows what emotion to feel. For some, it's numbness. For others, it's low-grade anxiety. For many, it's a quiet hopelessness that doesn't even feel like sadness anymore. It just feels like normal. That's not a mood. It's a signal, a vibrational fingerprint from a self you didn't consciously choose. It's the version of you that formed when life got hard, when your voice was ignored, when your light felt too bright for the room, when protection became priority, and your nervous system, it remembered, not because it's broken, but because it's brilliant. It learned to protect you, but protection is not the same as freedom, and comfort is not the same as alignment. Segment 2. The anatomy of a rehearsed identity. Let's get honest. The you showing up today, the one handling responsibilities, relationships, dreams, that version of you, it's not new, it's practiced. It's a sequence of chemical reactions, emotional rehearsals, and subconscious patterns that have been repeating for years, maybe decades. This is why change feels so hard, because you're not fighting laziness. You're not battling a lack of motivation. You're up against a version of you that's been rehearsed like a script, line by line, until it feels automatic. By the time you're 35, research suggests 95% of who you are is a memorized set of beliefs, behaviors, reactions, and emotional states. You are living a loop, a biological and energetic memory replayed daily. And the most deceptive part, it feels like you, but it isn't. It's a broadcast of the past, sent from the futureless space of survival mode. Segment 3, the misunderstood loyalty to pain. Pain doesn't just scar you, it teaches you. It programs your expectations. It builds emotional blueprints. After enough heartbreak, you don't just fear love, you expect loss. You prepare for betrayal, you brace for abandonment. Why? Because your nervous system learned it's safer to expect the worst than to be surprised by it. And so you adjust. You stay small. You manage dreams instead of embodying them. You shrink your joy before life has the chance to. But that's not wisdom. That's fear in a clever disguise. And the tragic part is, you've grown loyal to it. You've mistaken its whisper for intuition. You've assumed its signals are divine nudges when they're really just old scripts looping through familiar frequencies. That old self? It isn't malicious. It believes it's protecting you, but protection isn't always permission to stay. Segment 4, frequency over force. The quantum field, the energetic intelligence that surrounds and permeates everything, doesn't respond to your goals. It doesn't read vision boards. It doesn't listen to your affirmations. It doesn't care about how badly you want it. It responds to coherence, to vibrational alignment, to the energy of who you're being beneath the words. You say you want love, but carry the emotional signature of rejection, and so the universe mirrors back. Not what you desire, but what you are. Not as punishment, as precision. Energy doesn't lie, and the field doesn't hesitate. Segment 5, the echo disguised as intuition. There's something dangerous about familiarity. It convinces you that because it's known, it's true. That because the emotion feels natural, it must be aligned. But not everything familiar is authentic. Some things are just rehearsed. Some inner voices aren't your higher self. They're echoes, leftover data from a past version of you, still being broadcast by a body trying to keep you safe. So here's the question. How many of your instincts are actually survival responses? How many of your doubts are echoes, not warnings? How many of your patterns are just unexamined loyalty to pain? Because if you're not aware of the loop, you'll call it personality. You'll call it intuition. You'll call it fate. But it's not. It's just unhealed history hiding in plain sight. Segment 6, the first break in the loop. Here's what no one tells you. The first real transformation doesn't happen when you start doing better. It happens when you pause, when you notice, when the fear rises and just once, you don't obey it. You witness it. You sit with it. You breathe instead of bracing. And in that breath, something ancient shifts. That is the first crack in the frequency, the first signal to the field. I am no longer who I was. It's not dramatic. It's not loud, but it's real. And reality listens. Segment 7, the emotional chemistry of change. When you stop identifying with the old self, even just for a moment, you become the observer. And in quantum mechanics, observation changes outcomes. It collapses the probability wave into one reality. The act of seeing changes what is. So when you see your pattern, when you feel the old frequency arise and say, I see you, but I choose differently, you collapse the loop, not through resistance, but through witnessing. This is how you reclaim authorship, not by force, but by vibration, not by shouting new affirmations, but by softly refusing to dance to the old rhythm. Segment 8, the choice to release. There's nothing wrong with the old you. It's not broken. It's not evil. It was a strategy, a brilliant, resilient, intelligent strategy. But strategies have to evolve, and so must you. Because the life you're seeking, it won't arrive as long as you're emotionally tethered to the version of you that's bracing for survival. You can't step into expansion while vibrating contraction. You can't collapse a new timeline while embodying an expired self. So it begins here, in this breath, with a single internal declaration. I am no longer rehearsing my past. And when you say that, when you mean it, your energy shifts, your field responds, and the future starts bending toward you, not as a miracle, but as math. Closing scene, a mirror moment. Go stand in front of a mirror, not to inspect your appearance, but to feel your energy. Ask yourself silently, who am I broadcasting today? Not what you want, not what you're saying, but what you're being. If it feels like an echo, pause, breathe, choose again. Because your next timeline isn't something you chase, it's something you tune into. And tuning starts the moment you stop calling the old self you. In the next part of this series, we'll dive deeper into the invisible gatekeeper of all personal transformation, your body. Because even if your mind believes you're ready, your body might still be bracing for a life that no longer exists. Part 2. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. Coming next. Part 2. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. Before you make your vision board, before you write your next affirmation, before you set another goal or script another outcome, pause. Feel your body. Feel your breath. Feel your baseline. Not what you're thinking, but what you're being, because this is what they rarely teach you. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. Not in theory, but in frequency. And no amount of scripting, visualizing, or hoping can override a signal that's broadcasting fear. Segment 1. The Misalignment Trap. You've likely been told, just think positive, or maybe act as if. So you did. You said the affirmations. You created the morning rituals. You journaled your desires with careful, intentional words. But nothing really changed. Why? Because underneath the script, underneath the smile, you were still vibrating lack. You were still walking through your day with an emotional undercurrent of, I am not enough. Still carrying the weight of past disappointments as if they were proof. In the quantum field, it felt that, because it doesn't respond to what you say, it responds to what you broadcast. That's why so many people feel like they're doing everything right, but seeing no results. They're speaking one truth, but being another. That's incoherence, and incoherence blocks manifestation. Segment 2, the precision of energy. Let's be clear. Energy isn't vague. It isn't mystical guesswork. It's precision. Every thought you have is an electrical signal. Every emotion is a magnetic field. Together, they form your vibrational broadcast, a living, breathing frequency that interacts with the quantum field in real time. You may say you want love, but if your energy says, I don't trust anyone, the field will match the trust issue, not the desire. You might declare, I'm ready for abundance. But if your emotional body is still bracing for scarcity, you'll subconsciously reject the very opportunities you're asking for. And not because you're broken, but because your nervous system is trained to feel safe in struggle. That's what most people miss. Your field isn't misbehaving, it's obeying. It's mirroring what you are, not what you wish. Segment 3, desire versus identity. Here's a deeper distinction. Desire lives in the conscious mind, but identity lives in the subconscious. And identity wins every time. If your conscious mind says, I want success, but your subconscious identity says, I am unworthy, guess which frequency the field tunes into? It's not about force, it's about coherence. You can't out-affirm a misaligned identity. You can't work hard your way into wholeness. That's why people chase results but never feel arrived. Because the results don't matter when the identity hasn't shifted. You'll sabotage the outcome. Or worse, achieve it and still feel empty. Because the real destination isn't external. It's vibrational. It's who you become in the process. Segment 4, emotional set point equals signal. Let's go deeper. Your emotions aren't just feelings. They're frequencies. They're instructions. Each emotion has a resonance, a vibration. And the field listens to that, not your mouth. Joy, trust, gratitude. These are high-frequency signals. Shame, resentment, fear. They're lower vibrations. And the emotional state you occupy the most often? That's your baseline. That's your broadcast. That's what reality mirrors back. So let's get honest. What emotion have you been practicing lately? Not what you say you feel, but what your body returns to when you're not looking. That's your real set point, and the field is responding to it perfectly. Segment 5, the body is the filter. Here's what most mindset teachings skip. The body decides what gets let in, not the mind, not the vision board, not the motivational speech. Your body is the energetic gatekeeper, and if your nervous system has been trained to expect pain, chaos, rejection, then anything that doesn't match that frequency will be rejected. Not because you don't want it, because your body doesn't trust it. You may long for ease, but if ease is unfamiliar, your body will label it unsafe. You may dream of being seen, but if visibility once brought pain, your body will shrink from the spotlight. Until the body feels safe with your vision, you'll unconsciously block it. That's not sabotage, that's survival. Segment 6, emotional inheritance. Sometimes the signal you're sending isn't even yours. It was passed down, inherited, absorbed, from caregivers, from culture, from history. You learned what was safe to feel, what was acceptable to believe, what success should cost you, what failure means about you. You didn't ask for those programs, but they're running. And until you update that emotional operating system, you'll continue broadcasting someone else's limitations as your truth. This is why awareness is so powerful, because the moment you see the program, you're no longer at its mercy. Segment 7, signal disruption equals breakthrough. The path to your new timeline doesn't start with effort. It starts with disruption, disrupting the emotional pattern, the chemical loop, the memorized belief. That moment you notice yourself about to shrink and choose to breathe instead, that's disruption. That's energetic reprogramming. It doesn't always feel like a breakthrough. Sometimes it feels like resistance or confusion or fatigue. But those are signs of the signal shifting, signs that the old frequency is losing its grip. And in that space, you're broadcasting something new, something unfamiliar, something magnetic. That's when the field starts to reorganize. Segment 8, becoming a vibrational match. The question isn't, what do I want? It's, who must I become to match what I want? Because outcomes don't respond to wishing, they respond to resonance. That version of you who is abundant, they're not dreaming of abundance, they're living it. The version of you who is deeply loved, they're not wondering if they're lovable, they know. And they move through life with that certainty. So ask yourself, if I were already living that version of me, how would I wake up? How would I walk? How would I breathe? That is the emotional rehearsal that becomes your new broadcast, not someday. Now, segment 9, from thinking to being, thought is the first step, but embodiment is the goal. Thinking I am worthy means nothing if your breath still shortens every time you're seen. Scripting I am abundant doesn't matter if your nervous system still expects struggle. You must feel it, live it, become it, not pretend. Be. That's the bridge between desire and manifestation, between mind and field, between wish and world. When your thoughts, emotions, and energy say the same thing, the field doesn't delay, it mirrors you. Segment 10, energetic availability. You don't attract what you deserve. You attract what you're available for, and availability is not mental, it's vibrational. You can want the world, but if your energy says, I'm not ready, the world listens. You can scream, I deserve love. But if your field says, I don't trust it, it won't come close. So this is the real work. Becoming available. Training your body to feel safe with joy, safe with ease, safe with being seen, safe with receiving. When you do that, not forcefully, but consistently, your baseline shifts. And reality? It adjusts instantly. Right now, you are sending out a signal. Every breath, every belief, every unspoken truth. And that signal is writing your future in real time. So stop asking why it's not here yet. Start asking what signal you've been sending. Because the field isn't waiting, it's responding. And the moment you become the frequency, you become the magnet. So today, don't try to force the outcome. Become its match. Become the version of you who no longer waits, no longer begs, no longer braces, and watch what changes. Not in theory, but in reality. In part 3, we'll go deeper into the silent authority shaping your frequency every moment of the day. Your body, because it doesn't just remember the past, it's broadcasting it. Part 3, your body is running the show. You think you're making decisions. You think you're choosing your responses. You think you're showing up in the present. But what if you're not? What if, before your mind finishes its first conscious thought, your body has already made the decision, already braced, already reacted, already activated an identity you didn't even realize you chose? Because here's the truth. You're not being driven by thought. You're being driven by memory, not conscious memory, but cellular, emotional, somatic. You don't think your way into your identity. You feel your way into it, automatically, habitually, repeatedly, and your body is the driver, unless you take the wheel. Segment 1, the hidden machinery of identity. Let's get one thing clear. Your body isn't just flesh and bone. It's a database, a living library of your emotional history, a vault of every betrayal, every high-stakes moment, every close call, and it never forgets. Your mind might rationalize, forgive, or reframe, but your body, it remembers. not in stories, but in chemistry, in hormones, in muscle tension, in posture, in breath. And it recreates that chemistry every day before you even realize it. You think you're responding to the moment, but your body's already halfway into the past, reacting to echoes, bracing for ghosts. And this is why change feels so hard, because transformation isn't a mindset shift. It's a full body recalibration. Segment 2, the emotional states as muscle memory. Ever noticed how your body tightens when uncertainty shows up? How your shoulders lift when you're about to speak your truth? How your breath shortens when someone gets too close? That's not random. That's rehearsal. Your body has memorized fear. It's practiced disappointment. It's trained itself to expect discomfort. And now it's running the show like a reflex. You wake up with a vision, but your nervous system is rehearsing last month's failure. You want to trust, but your gut is scanning for reasons not to. It's not that your goals are unreachable. It's that your body is calibrated for survival, not expansion. And as long as your body doesn't feel safe with the new reality, you'll unconsciously pull yourself back into the old one. Segment 3, the nervous system is the gatekeeper. This is the part almost everyone skips. Your nervous system decides what you're available for. You can visualize abundance. You can journal intentions. You can script the future in detail. But if your nervous system is tuned to scarcity, you'll block, dismiss, or sabotage everything that doesn't match it. Not because you're self-sabotaging, because your system thinks it's keeping you alive. It was trained to believe that chaos is familiar, that struggle is noble, that suffering is safe. So when life gets easier, when love shows up, when money starts flowing, your system panics. Because peace is unfamiliar, and unfamiliar feels dangerous. So it reverts, it recreates, it returns to the loop. Segment 4, the body's loyalty to the past. Your body doesn't care about your dreams. It cares about what it knows, and what it knows is what it's done, over and over again. It has a deep, cellular loyalty to the emotional signatures you've rehearsed. If you've spent years in fight or flight, that becomes home. If you've rehearsed rejection, your body builds armor. If you've repeated self-doubt, your breath will compress to match. And here's the danger. You start calling this armor personality. You confuse trauma chemistry for truth, but the version of you shaped in self-protection was never meant to lead you into your expansion. It's not your essence. It's a coping mechanism, and it's time to gently interrupt it. Segment 5, recognizing somatic triggers. Here's how to start taking the wheel. Don't try to overwrite the signal. Just witness it. When your gut drops before speaking up, pause. When your chest tightens during intimacy, pause. When your shoulders brace during stress, pause. And in that pause, whisper to yourself, "This isn't my destiny. It's just my body remembering." That awareness alone is transformational, because now you're not the emotion. You're the observer of it. And in quantum language, the observer changes the outcome. You're no longer trapped in the loop. You're watching it. And that single shift breaks the trance. That's how embodiment begins, not with force, but with presence. Segment 6, rewiring through ritual, not resistance. You can't argue your nervous system into a new reality. You have to show it through repetition, through safety, through somatic permission. This is why spiritual insight alone isn't enough. This work must be ritualized. Daily breath work, stillness, slowness, moments of conscious awareness where you practice a new response. Instead of tightening, you soften. Instead of bracing, you breathe. Instead of reacting, you pause. These are the micro moments that change your chemistry. And when your chemistry shifts, your frequency shifts. And when your frequency shifts, your reality can't help but follow. Because you're no longer broadcasting from fear. You're broadcasting from truth. Segment 7, teaching the body safety with expansion. Most people think expansion will feel good, but at first it often doesn't, because expansion is unfamiliar, and unfamiliar feels unsafe to a nervous system trained in contraction. So you ask for abundance but feel anxious when money arrives. You ask for love but flinch when intimacy deepens. You ask for freedom but freeze when the leash finally loosens. This isn't sabotage, it's biology. So here's the key. Train your body to associate expansion with safety. Let receiving feel neutral. Let ease feel normal. Let rest feel allowed. This isn't laziness, it's repatterning. And it's the only way your nervous system will stop rejecting the future you've been asking for. Segment 8. The body as the portal to a new timeline. We often think transformation happens in the mind, but it begins in the body because the body is what broadcasts. The body is what holds the signal. The body is the portal. You don't need more information. You need integration, to move differently, to breathe intentionally, to sit with the sensations you used to avoid. This is the true work of manifestation, not chasing outcomes, but becoming coherent. Not speaking affirmations, but embodying them. When your body feels safe with the future shows up, not as a fluke, but as a match. Segment 9, the ritual of remembering. Every morning before the world comes in, ask your body, who am I rehearsing today? Am I choosing the past or returning to the present? And don't answer with words. Answer with stillness, with movement, with ritual. The breath you choose, the posture you inhabit, the emotions you allow. These are your declarations. These are your affirmations. These are your broadcast signals. And your body listens. And so does the field. You are not here to dominate your body. You are here to lead it, to love it, to reintroduce it to safety. Because the future you seek isn't waiting out there. It's waiting for a signal it can recognize. That signal is you. Right now, your body is a temple or a trap, a portal or a prison, not because of what it is, but because of what it remembers. And every day you have a choice, to let the past play through you like an old film, or to pause the loop, breathe, and become present again. Not once, but daily, ritually, lovingly. This is the work, not becoming someone new, but guiding your body to feel safe being who you already are. And when that happens, your frequency stabilizes, your field aligns, and your new timeline finds you. In part 4, we take the next step. We talk about the old self and why it fights so hard to stay. Because to truly change, you must first learn how to unbecome. Part 4. Unbecoming is the real transformation. You stand in front of a mirror, not to adjust your appearance, but to sense your frequency. And in that pause, you hear it, that quiet, well-worn voice that says, stay small. Don't speak too loud. Don't want too much. You take a breath, but your chest feels tight. You soften your jaw, but your shoulders still brace. You look into your eyes and realize you're not looking at your highest self. You're looking at a version of you built in response to pain, a version that was never designed to expand, only to survive. And now that version is standing in the way of your next life. Not because it's wrong, but because it's expired. The real transformation isn't about becoming someone new. It's about releasing who you never truly were. Segment 1, Identity as Armor. Let's get honest. The version of you showing up most days, the one who overthinks, underasks, shrinks in unfamiliar spaces, wasn't born that way. That version was constructed, not consciously, but carefully, subconsciously, piece by piece, memory by memory, disappointment by disappointment. It was shaped when you weren't chosen, when your voice didn't matter, when your truth cost you connection, and over time you started adapting, protecting, filtering, rehearsing, until that performance became a personality, until that armor felt like skin, until that defense became default. But here's the truth. You didn't become that version. You survived into it, and now you've outgrown it. Segment 2. Survival isn't the goal anymore. At one point, that old self saved your life. The people pleaser kept you from rejection. The perfectionist kept you from criticism. The overachiever helped you feel worthy of love. The ghost helped you stay invisible in dangerous places. But none of them were born from vision. They were born from vigilance, from survival mode. And survival is sacred. It got you here, but it can't take you further. Because survival asks, how do I stay safe? Expansion asks, how do I become whole? And those two questions come from very different versions of you. If you're still running the programs of survival, you'll reject the opportunities of alignment. You'll mistrust the very timeline you've been praying for. Not because it's wrong, but because your body doesn't recognize it yet. Segment 3, the addiction to the old frequency. Let's talk about addiction, not to substances, but to identity. The emotional self you've been rehearsing for years, it's addictive. Because the brain craves familiarity. Because the nervous system craves the known. Because the body craves its practiced chemistry, even if that chemistry is sadness, fear, or shame. You've been emotionally bonding with an expired version of you, not because it's who you are, but because it's what you've practiced. And the longer you loop in that version, the more you reinforce its signal, the more the quantum field mirrors it, and the more real it feels. But it's not real. It's just memorized. And memory isn't destiny. Segment 4, the friction of expansion. When you begin to shift, when you start choosing differently, something happens. Friction. Your old self starts to panic. Your inner critic gets louder. Your doubt becomes convincing. You question your clarity. Why? Because you're no longer vibrating at the frequency of your past, and your system is in withdrawal, not from a substance, from a self. This is why healing often feels like breaking, not because something's going wrong, but because the pattern is losing power, and the identity is unraveling. Let that be a signal, not of regression, but of release. You are not falling apart. You are unbecoming. Segment 5. You can't fake frequency. You can't fake alignment. You can't act as if when your body is bracing for betrayal. You can't say the right things when your frequency contradicts them, because the quantum doesn't hear what you say, it hears what you are. And the version of you who's still vibrating from fear, even while speaking abundance, will keep collapsing timelines that match the fear. That's not misalignment. That's coherence. So what's the answer? Not force, not performance, ritual, presence, releasing. The moment you stop trying to add more and begin gently subtracting everything that isn't you, the signal clears, and the field begins to rearrange around the real you. Segment 6. Grieving the old self without guilt. Let's pause here for something important. Unbecoming isn't a betrayal, it's a graduation. It's okay to grieve the version of you that got you here. They worked hard. They tried their best. They protected you when no one else did. You don't need to hate that self. You need to thank them, hold them in reverence, and let them rest. Say to them, I love you, but I no longer need you. You brought me here, but now I walk from here free. That's not abandonment, that's evolution. Segment 7, release is not destruction, it's remembering. People fear release because they think it means losing themselves. But the truth? Unbecoming is not destruction, it's revelation. You're not becoming someone new. You're excavating someone ancient, someone real, someone whole. The self before the world told you who to be, before heartbreak taught you to hide, before fear taught you to shrink. That self didn't disappear. They were buried, under expectations, under roles, under stories that were never yours. And now you remember. Now you return. Segment 8. Building a new identity by choosing again. You don't become the new version of you in one moment. You choose them in many, over and over. In quiet spaces, in hard conversations, in breath. You show up with a new posture, a new inner dialogue, a new standard for how you let life interact with you, and with every repetition, you reinforce the new frequency. Not through perfection, through consistency. This is where embodiment begins. Not with wishing, with witnessing, with repetition, with self-trust. Segment 9, when the old self tries to return. It will happen. The old self will come knocking, not because you're failing, but because you're releasing. And release always brings resistance. So when the fear grows louder, don't panic. When doubt tries to reassert itself, don't spiral. When your body tightens, don't collapse. Instead, smile. Say, I see you. You're familiar, but I no longer live there. Because the old self doesn't need to be fought, only seen. The moment you stop merging with the pattern, you reclaim the power to choose again. And in that choice, the loop breaks. Segment 10. The frequency of freedom. You've been conditioned to believe that freedom is something you earn. Through effort, through proving, through hustle. But true freedom isn't an outcome. It's a vibration. It's what happens when your being no longer agrees with your limitations. When your energy no longer rehearses rejection. When your nervous system feels safe being fully alive. That freedom, it doesn't arrive from the outside. It rises from within, not through striving, but through subtraction. The moment you let go of everything you never were, you finally remember who you've always been. This isn't just a mindset shift. This is a frequency shift, a timeline shift, a rebirth. And it doesn't happen because you chased harder. It happens the moment you became unavailable for anything less than truth. So here's your invitation. Close your eyes, take a breath, and whisper, I no longer collapse into the past. I return to who I am. Let that be your mantra. Let that be your declaration. Let that be the frequency that finds the future you've always known was possible. Because transformation isn't becoming more. It's remembering what you were before you started pretending to be less. In part 5, we close this series with the most essential key of all, coherence. Not just thinking differently, but living as the signal. Part 5, you are the broadcast, make it count. You walk into a room, no one says a word, but something is communicated, an energetic message, a frequency, a broadcast. You've felt it before. Someone walks in and instantly the air changes. Their presence says more than their mouth ever could. What was that? It was coherence. It was alignment. It was someone whose energy and identity were speaking the same truth. And here's the revelation. You do this too. Right now you are sending a signal, not through your voice, but through your vibration, through your breath, through the undercurrent of your emotional state. And the universe, it's not listening to your words, it's tuning into your broadcasts. So, what are you really saying? Segment 1, the broadcast is always on. Every moment of your life, you are broadcasting. Through every thought, every emotion, every subtle contraction or expansion. You don't turn it off when you're alone. You don't pause it when you're unsure. You don't get to mute it with positive words if your body's still bracing for lack. You are the message. You are the transmitter. And reality, it's not guessing, it's responding. This is the part most teachings skip. They focus on what you should say, what you should do, what you should visualize, but none of it matters if your energy is out of sync. Segment 2, what coherence really means. Let's break it down. Coherence isn't just alignment between mind and body. It's the consistency of your signal, your thoughts, your emotions, your actions, all singing the same note, all broadcasting the same frequency. That's when the field listens. That's when manifestation doesn't just happen. It becomes inevitable. Because the field doesn't respond to intensity. It responds to clarity. And clarity comes when every part of you is saying the same thing. No mixed signals. No mental yes with an emotional no. No visualizing freedom while vibrating fear. Just truth. Lived. Felt. Embodied. That's coherence. And coherence is power. Segment 3, the energy behind the action. You can take massive action. You can work 14-hour days. You can network, hustle, build, script. But if the energy behind the action is frantic, desperate, proving, that's what the field mirrors. Effort doesn't guarantee expansion. Alignment does. You can do less and attract more. You can move slower and magnetize faster. You can become the frequency and let the field recalibrate around you. Because manifestation isn't reaction, it's reflection. The outer world is just your inner world, wearing different clothes. So if your life feels chaotic, stuck, repetitive, ask not, what should I do? Ask, what am I broadcasting? Segment 4, frequency is not a metaphor. This isn't poetic, It's physics. Thoughts are electric. Emotions are magnetic. Together, they form your electromagnetic signature, your broadcast. And the quantum field responds in kind, not philosophically, mathematically. Your signal is constantly collapsing reality around it, not as punishment, not as reward, but as a match. You are not manifesting your desires. You're manifesting your dominant frequency. So the real question is not, do I want this? It's, do I match this? Segment 5, becoming unavailable for the past. If you want to step into a new reality, you have to become vibrationally unavailable for the old one. You cannot meet your future while broadcasting the chemistry of who you used to be. You cannot hold abundance while your nervous system is still rehearsing scarcity. You cannot collapse into love while carrying the energetic memory of betrayal. And you don't change this through willpower. You change it through frequency discipline, by noticing when you're slipping into the loop and choosing again, breathing deeper, soften your stance, witnessing the old self without merging, and broadcasting something new. Not perfectly, but consistently. Segment 6, energetic integrity in everyday moments. Coherence isn't about being enlightened on a mountaintop. It's about who you are when no one's watching, in the traffic jam, in the awkward silence, in the we need to talk moment, in the inbox full of pressure. That's where your real signal is revealed. That's where frequency becomes embodied. Not as a performance, but as a lifestyle. Your presence becomes louder than your words. Your being becomes louder than your branding. And people feel you before they hear you. That's energetic integrity. That's frequency leadership. And that's what the new timeline demands. Segment 7, your future is already broadcasting. Here's a powerful truth. The future version of you, the one who has what you desire, they already exist. Not as a fantasy, but as a frequency. They're already broadcasting from a parallel timeline. The question isn't, how do I become them? It's, how do I tune into their signal? Because when you align your frequency to theirs, you collapse the distance between timelines. You stop reaching. You start resonating. You stop manifesting from need. You start becoming the match. That version of you doesn't hustle. They don't beg. They don't chase. They embody. And embodiment doesn't come from wishing. It comes from vibration. Segment 8, practice before proof. Here's the mistake most people make. They wait for the outside to shift before they feel different inside. But that's not how the field works. The field doesn't give you proof first. It gives you feedback. Your job is to practice the vibration before you see the evidence, to feel the emotion before the result. You don't wait for the breakthrough. You become the breakthrough. You practice abundance until your cells believe it. You practice trust until your breath relaxes. You practice joy until it becomes your natural set point. And when you do, reality has no choice but to follow, because you are now broadcasting truth, and truth always finds resonance. Segment 9, ask better questions. If you're stuck, don't ask, when will it come? Ask, what am I still sending out? Ask, am I aligned with trust or just hoping from fear? Am I radiating joy or performing it for validation? Am I vibrating as the version of me who already lives this life? Because the quantum field responds with perfect clarity. If your signal is mixed, the results will be too. So the invitation is simple. Clean the signal. Choose thoughts that match your truth. Practice emotions that match your vision. Take actions that match your identity. Because the world doesn't shift when you shout. It shifts when you resonate. Segment 10, final transmission. Become the signal. This is it. This is the pivot point. You've done the inner work. You've watched the old self unravel. You've remembered your essence beneath the armor. Now it's time. Time to broadcast. Not from lack, not from waiting, not from a fragmented self, but from coherence, from clarity, from truth. Because when you become the signal that embodies love, expansion, abundance, ease, the world doesn't just listen. It reconfigures, doors open, people align, opportunities appear. Not because you earned them, but because you finally match them. And that is the true manifestation. not a chase, a calibration. So calibrate to your highest, speak less, vibrate more. Because reality doesn't bend for words, it bends for coherence. Right now, in this very moment, you are sending out a message. And that message isn't what you say, it's what you are. So, what are you telling the field? Are you broadcasting fear or trust, contraction or expansion, lack or truth? This is not a test, it's a remembrance. And the moment you choose coherence, even for one breath, you activate the new timeline. Not in theory, in form. So whisper it now. I am the broadcast, and the field is listening. Then rise, walk, live as the version of you who already knows. It's not coming. It's already here. Because I am already it. If this series stirred something in you, that wasn't coincidence. That was coherence. Declare your frequency in the comments below. I've remembered who I am. The signal is clear. Let this be your broadcast, not to me, to the field. Because you are not here to watch transformation, you are here to embody it. And now, you are.